Well, it's time to talk about one of my favorite games of all time. Again. But first, I gotta go outside. It's snowing, so I'm gonna have to shovel. You know how that fucking goes. This fucking country. Grand Theft Auto is a game that probably got me in more trouble during my youth than anything else. When I was a kid, my brother Dylan got a brand new copy of San Andreas for the original Xbox from my father. Watching him play it felt like a fever dream. I never thought I'd grow up and enjoy an open world game that was capable of such shenanigans, let alone contained heavily violent overtones. Especially at that age, kids like me were too busy playing zombie or Sims type games to give the limelight to a gruesome franchise such as GTA. The concept of a video game where you can basically kill anyone you want is pretty creepy to hear as a parent, so I don't necessarily blame them for what they went through. But I'm not gonna get into the grit and grime of the series. I'm only here to talk about my absolute favorite installment within the canonical series of the games, Grand Theft Auto fucking 4. Released in 2008, Grand Theft Auto 4 told the story of Niko Bellic as he makes the long haul from Europe to Liberty City, a supposed land of opportunity with a tight fist of corrupt police and maniacal criminals around every corner. As Niko works his way up a massive ladder of important people involved with the mafia and corrupted police force, he becomes more and more of an asset due to his immense skills learned from his time in the war, as he tries to do what he must to get revenge for something taken from him long ago. There are many emotional scenes when Niko discusses his experience with following awful commands by his comrades while he was a soldier. During these scenes, Niko's attitude is never sarcastic or funny. He's straight-toned, and it sends chills down my spine every time I hear them. His dialogue is only one of the major reasons why he's my #1 protagonist in Grand Theft Auto. Now would probably be a decent time to mention that the physics of this game are one of a kind, using what I believe is known as the Euphoria engine. Basically, every person you shoot will react to where they got shot in a disturbingly realistic way. Although back then our parents probably forbade us from playing such a realistic and sadistic game of that time, we couldn't help but love the ragdoll effects between the NPCs. Keep in mind, other games have had ragdoll effects in the past, like Max Payne 2 for example, but this was the first game to make them realistic. It's gonna sound really fucked up, but please believe me when I say I'm not a fucking psychopath. It's pretty hilarious to run people over in this game, just because of the physics alone. Driving around and shooting them because they react in such a silly way, we're all guilty of this. Hell, we're even guilty of punishing poor Niko 100,000 times by sending him high in the air via helicopter and forcing him to jump from thousands of feet to his brutal death. Or by using a trainer and jumping from the highest point in the game, the Rotterdam Tower. I'll spill the hot water for you right now and get it over with. I'm not going to talk about the DLCs in this video. I'm strictly focusing my attention on the main game itself, mostly because there are a lot of specific things I'd like to cover at certain points. And yeah, your eyes don't deceive you. That's Jason Statham's face replacing Niko's. I found a mod that changes all of his facial textures to Mr. Crank himself, and being that Jason is one of my all-time favorite silly action stars, I couldn't help myself. I had to play as him. It's oddly fitting. There are a lot of amazing characters I want to cover from this game, but be patient with me as there's a lot I had to remember about each and every one of them. They're all unique and offer different stories for Niko to either benefit from or get really annoyed with. One thing that I think players can relate to while playing as Niko is his negative attitude towards a hierarchy. Even as you fight your way higher up the crime ladder, he remains sarcastic and doesn't give a fuck what the others think. It works 100% of the time. Of course, you have Roman, Niko's cousin, who nags him consistently about going bowling. Everybody knows the memes at this point, but it's still pretty cool to have lots of emotional interactions with him throughout the story. Without them, Roman would be considered flat as a cardboard box. But he was performed well, and as a kid I found myself caring for him, as if he were my real family. Roman always serves as a voice of reason to Nico, mostly due to his cowardice, but by the end of the game you really feel so deeply connected with him that it's hard to imagine him being absent. Sure, it's fucking hilarious to send Roman to the hospital by flinging him off of a motorcycle, but deep down I do care about him. The driving physics are still some of the most realistic I've ever seen. A lot of people have actually complained and said that GTA 4's driving is too slow and clunky, but I digress. I feel like for the time, it was pretty impressive having the ability to crunch your car into hilariously awful shapes and sizes, not to mention how funny it was to drive at an immense speed and bail out as Nico pathetically attempts to lessen the damage of the crash. But enough with the fucking physics. I need to cover a lot about this game, and much like Arkham Knight and Half-Life 2, this isn't going to be easy for me. With the absolute madman size of this unit, GTA 4 has a lot inside of it to analyze. From its interesting and complex villains to its in-depth, detailed world, it's just a masterpiece to me all around. Speaking of the characters, I already mentioned Roman, but I'll give you the easiest breakdown for most of the important ones. Dmitry Rascalov is quite the rascal indeed, being the second major character that Nico teams up with in the game. He's considered a brother to Mikhail Faustin and often questions his ethics and morals. Dmitry is firstly introduced as a calm and level-headed person who wants Nico to help them conduct business without drama from Faustin, but always ends up disappointed when Mikhail goes on a rampage. Later on, Dmitry forces Nico to kill Faustin, only to quickly turn on him as well. He's basically the main villain of the story and constantly comes back at random intervals to try and kill Nico off for good, even going as far as kidnapping Roman and holding him hostage, with hundreds of armed goons protecting him. That mission is actually one of my favorites in the game. Being a ghost of Nico's past, Bulgarin has endlessly chased after our protagonist for years prior to the game's introduction. Finally discovering he's in Liberty City, and tipped off by Dmitry himself, he tries effortlessly to bring Nico into the dirt. There are a few key moments in the story where Bulgarin appears to try and kill Nico, but usually he gets away unscathed. There isn't much to say about Brucey that isn't already known. The steroid junkie who bangs hot ladies and lives inside of his own ego was so loved that he even returned in GTA 5 as an online handler character. Brucey may come off as a loudmouthed, juiced up roid rager, but yeah, that's basically what makes him so great. His attitude, jokes, and awkward chemistry with Nico work wonders in a story like this. He was meant to be in this game, plain and simple. You didn't think I'd forget about the gun-holding, blunt-token bestie of this universe, did you? Jacob's gotta be one of the greatest characters ever designed in a video game. His accent, although very thick and impossible to translate without subtitles, is very appealing and serves quite a bit to push his character further. He speaks very wisely and gives great advice to Nico all throughout the story, not to mention being a total badass and a great friend the whole way. I'm surprised they didn't bring Jacob back later on, but I could be wrong about that. Possibly the funniest character in my opinion, Bernie Crane used to be a man named Florian Kravich before he had moved to Liberty City and changed it after involving himself in an affair with the mayor. Jesus, sorry about the rhyme. Bernie is made out to be the person that ruined Nico's life at a young age when his village was attacked and his friends were murdered. As it turns out though, Bernie had nothing to do with it. Nico helps Bernie on multiple missions, including the one that everybody and their brothers still have nightmares about. I'm talking about Buoys Ahoy. Ahoy, sailor! But I can honestly say, I like Bernie. He's hilarious, he's dramatic, and he comes up with some really great quotes. I can't tell you how many times I burst out laughing when Bernie was on screen.
Watch my rear! It's my hiney that I'm worried about, honey. Get behind me!
There's really no point in talking about Michelle, Nico's first girlfriend, because she turns out to be a police officer pretty early on. But Kate is fantastic. A very generous and caring soul surrounded by a family of criminals. Kate McCreary lives with her brothers Packy, Gerald, and their mother. She's the only innocent character in Liberty City, really, and the only one that Nico genuinely falls for. Kate often plays extreme hardball with her emotions, pushing Nico's advances away, but she enjoys his company and sees humanity in him despite all he has done. The two of them share some great dialogues and moments throughout the story. An old mob boss who suffers from extreme anger issues and paranoia, Pegarino is the final mob boss that Nico ends up working with. Keep in mind, I didn't mention a lot of characters from earlier on, but that's mostly because they're not that important, or they just don't take too long from the intro to get to. Anyways, JPEG is constantly raising his voice and mistreating his crew of goons while Nico protects him and saves his ass constantly from harm's way. He ends up becoming the final villain that Nico kills, but I'll get to that a bit later. Man, poor fucking Dwayne. Spending majority of his life in prison, he's released during Nico's time with Playboy X. When Nico meets him, we immediately see that Dwayne lives in a shithole with no friends or family to accompany him anymore. Since so much time has gone by, he also lost his reputation as a respectful, feared gang leader. At one point, you have the option of killing either Playboy X or Dwayne. Personally, I always choose Playboy because he's scum. Dwayne will remain a great friend to you after Playboy is dead and won't judge you insistently like majority of the other characters. Usually every time he calls me during the gameplay, I answer out of pity. 20 years later and I still hang out with fucking Dwayne. What can I say? He's a cool dude.
No? Nah. Problem is, you realize it's all the same shit. You're in prison, outside, with a woman, on your own, with money, broke, happy, unhappy. Don't mean shit. Realize life don't mean shit, man. Teach yourself to stop caring.
I know about that.
But it's hard, man. I don't know how to fix that shit. I don't know how to care no more. Damn, listen to me. I'm pathetic.
The biggest piece of trash there is, Darko is the man who ratted out the village and caused Nico's friends to die all those years ago. Spending his entire life hunting the bastard, Nico has wanted the chance to enact his revenge in the most brutal and heinous way. Strangely enough, when the two meet, Nico insists on asking him questions. He asks how much Darko was paid for ratting out everyone in the village, to which he answers with a heavy laugh and says,
1,000.
You killed my friends for $1,000.
How much do you charge to kill someone?
You ruined me, you fuck!
Nico's performance throughout the entire story, including this segment, is too fucking good to put in words. He's emotional, he's angry, and he's ready to finish it. As the player, you get a choice if you want to kill Darko or not. Normally, I choose to walk away. This scumbag can live the rest of his goddamn life in agony for all I care. Well, those are all the major characters I wanted to introduce. I'm obviously aware I didn't introduce everybody, but that's because a lot of the earlier segments in the game aren't meant to be taken seriously, but more so to get you acquainted with the new Liberty City map. I mean, obviously you want to take majority of the story seriously, but what I meant was you can relax for the beginning chapters. During specific key moments of the story, you won't be allowed to access other places such as the apartment on Mohawk that gets burnt down by Dimitri. You also have the world itself, which always feels alive and well. Pedestrians will engage with one another in conversations, they react when Nico causes some chaos, and they say some funny shit sometimes. I'll never forget seeing this as a kid, but often police officers can arrest a random pedestrian where they'll escort the suspect to their car and actually put them inside before heading to the station. For a game made in 2008, that's pretty fucking good. And did you know that if you enter a strip club with your camera equipped on your phone, the security guards will attack you? I guess they don't like when you try to take some of the merchandise home with you, you fucking creep. After years and years of playing this game, I'm still discovering things about it. Probably a Rockstar staple at this point. I mean, there's even a side mission where Nico assists Eddie Lowe, a serial killer who acts very much like a toddler on a sugar rush. I never knew this guy existed until just the other day. The websites at multiple internet cafes will feature articles describing his killings and the intent behind them. Yeah, there's an internet cafe. Doesn't sound too crazy now, but the idea of Nico being able to access the virtual internet within a video game was kind of fucking wild. There are porn sites, ringtone and notification sites, emails that you can reply to, car websites. It's not the most in-depth mechanic, but I'd like to think for 2008, it's still pretty fire. And yeah, I'm also playing this game with an active trainer at the moment, which I've never done before. It surprised me the amount of things you can make Nico do with this insanely OP cheat menu. I mostly used it to speedrun my way through the game and record key moments to talk about. So please forgive me if you see any wonky footage anywhere. I was just having way too much fun. Unfortunately, the fun doesn't last long. This is a dark game, and it reminds you of that often. Depending on what you decide at the end game, Nico will either work with Dimitri and help him on one last job, or he will hunt him down and kill him, ending their ruthless cat and mouse game forever. We're entering spoiler territory, so if you still somehow haven't beaten this outstanding gem from your childhood, dude, why the fuck not? Anyways, if you choose to assist Dimitri, he will send an armed goon to Roman's wedding where your cousin will be shot and killed by a hitman. It's a traumatic and disturbing scene, forcing the player to lose all of Roman's benefits, perks, and worst of all, his friendship. I never choose that ending because Roman's not only direct family, but he didn't mean any harm by asking Nico to come here in the first place. He wanted to build a life with his cousin that they had both lost at such young ages, and it destroys me knowing it's even an option. It's like choosing option A or B in Grand Theft Auto 5. Why the fuck would you be that stupid? If you choose to go after Dimitri and kill him on the Russian boat, the wedding day will come, but Pegorino will too. He guns down Kate in front of Nico just out front of the church. She's killed instantly.
Somebody call an ambulance! Call a fucking ambulance!
She's dead!
What? Oh shit. Shit.
Losing the love of your life is not easy, and I'm sure we've all related to it from time to time, but yeah, Nico literally had to witness it happen, so that's fucked. As sad as it is though, I still prefer this ending. Dimitri is dead, and now there's only one last thing to do: kill JPEG. The final mission of the game is a fucking doozy, and it's also the only one that I know of with a checkpoint halfway through. Nico has to chase after Pegorino, eventually leading him to an abandoned factory. Gunning down his henchmen, you have to continue the pressure until Pegorino escapes in a boat. Then you have to follow him on a dirt bike along the coast. Jacob appears with a helicopter to assist you in taking him down. You'll have to drive fast and ramp up to the chopper before climbing inside. Then we get what we've all been waiting for, a dramatic scene of Nico aiming his gun at a wounded Pegorino as the two of them talk. After taking orders from everyone and doing what all the others said this entire time, Nico finally listens to his gut and ends the turmoil here.
What the fuck did she ever do to you?
I wanted you immigrant dipshit.
Big talk. You wanna know something funny?
Not really.
The commission, the old families. I know some of those guys. And they thought you were a fat fucking joke. A joke!
And from this point on, you're free to explore the world and continue doing side quests along with wreaking as much or as little havoc as you want on the pedestrians of Liberty City. The world is a playground full of hilariously physics-based people and plenty of destruction to be had. Now, as with every review, it's time to discuss the things that kinda suck about it. Don't worry, it's a short list, considering this game is very dated, and the issues I'm outlining are probably not as discussed today. Firstly, it's a bit of a shitty thing to complain about, but I hate that Nico moves so slow. On keyboard, you have 2 speeds, fast as shit or slow as ass. With a controller, you technically have 3 speeds. You can walk, hold A to jog, or tap it to sprint. Of course, nobody wants to tap a button multiple times to sprint anymore, so with the help of a trainer you can adjust Nico's walk speed, amongst other options. Second, I'm not a big fan of the whole fake death mechanic. Don't know what I mean? Well, I'll try to simplify it for you. If Nico falls from too great of a height, it's normally an instant death. Sometimes though, thanks to the physics engine, you'll get what I call the false death glitch, where the game kind of pauses just before Nico finishes fumbling around, giving you the impression you survived the lethal fall, when in reality, you didn't. It's the biggest troll in a Rockstar game, and even today it bugs me. It's like the game tries to trick you into thinking you'll be okay, but then shoots you between the eyes last minute. Also, this isn't really a major complaint, considering I probably am the one who caused it, but there appears to be a massive stuttering problem with distant textures. If you're playing with the ENB series mod, you'll know that firstly you had to downgrade your copy of GTA 4 through a third-party app, so it's gotta be something I did wrong there. Can't really blame the game for that. I'm also not a fan of flying in this game. Seriously, fuck flying in Grand Theft Auto 4, at least with a keyboard. Many missions force Nico to use a helicopter, and 98% of the helicopter missions are usually tailing ones, meaning you have to follow somebody. It's downright ugly to look at, and I can't even describe how impossible it is to use the keyboard. Sure, I could have made it easier on myself and plugged in a controller, but fuck it, I'm almost done. Flying is a whole other headache, with your copter sometimes taking nosedives and miscalculating your trajectory. You have to steer with either the numpad or the mouse and gain/lose altitude using W and S. Who designed the controls for PC like this? A fucking monkey? And every time Nico is launched from a motorcycle, you'd better expect to either die or lose the bike for good, because there's a good chance the physics engine will send you 75 fucking feet into the air, only to drop you down to your doom. Sometimes you'll get lucky and have a nasty crash that no human on Earth could survive, but Nico's built different. He gets right back up every time and makes sure to adjust his balls whenever. One last complaint, and I'm sure a lot of the fan base is already in agreement for this, but majority of the missions in Grand Theft Auto 4 are nothing but repeats. Not direct repeats, but it's obvious that the repetition of mission objectives make the game feel kind of slow at times. A lot of missions revolve around the same goddamn thing. Nico has to drive somewhere, he grabs special gun or thing, things turn upside down, now Nico fights. It happens all the time throughout the story, and only a few missions stand out to me as unique. For example, I loved the mission I'll Take Her, where you have to get in touch with Grace Ancelotti, the daughter of a massive crime family, and kidnap her while test driving her car. The mission feels different because there's no killing anyone, it's just driving from point A to B, but with Gracie's negative attitude and constant bullshit, the car will veer all over the road and then some. Ah, fuck, see, she just flipped me over. Now I gotta try and fix it. Oh shit, she jumped out of the car! Well, that's fucking stupid. Time to redo the whole thing. There's also no car customization, but I'll exclude that for now since there exist mods where you can add an in-game Los Santos Customs type of shop that lets you customize vehicles to your liking. Overall, Grand Theft Auto 4 is still my favorite in the series, and I've never enjoyed a Rockstar game as much as I have this one. Years later, and it stands as a testament to the industry. It's a magnum opus to the other open world games that tried ever so hard to hop aboard its overwhelming success, and I love playing it every time I fire it up. And to quote another YouTuber's comment, shout out to Synthwave191, there is no happy ending no matter what ending you choose, showing that a life of crime is simply not worth it. Nico is the best protagonist in the series to me, mainly because of his attitude. He's been through literal hell and back, so it felt cool to play as a character who starts off with nothing and ends with a legacy. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever truly see Nico again, since Rockstar seems to enjoy teasing everyone with their very subtle hints in the 5th game.
There was an Eastern European guy making moves in Liberty City, but he went quiet.
To conclude, Grand Theft Auto 4 is the greatest in my opinion. What are some of your favorite moments from the game? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate you guys watching and joining me as I took a deep dive into one of my favorite games of all time, rightfully so. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.
Try to call him without the phone.